Welcome to GBIRL, the podcast looking at the real business world of esports, gaming, and streaming with the people and personalities behind it all. Here is your host, BillTheConquerer.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You've got everybody who has ever followed me knows I love stories, and I love to follow up with friends that I've met over the years and figure out where they are in their lives, how they've grown, how they've evolved, and I'm very grateful right now to have a friend with me. She was gracious enough to allow me to write an article about her. What is it now? At least a couple years ago. I haven't even looked at that article in a while, but I will have that article. I will definitely have the link to that article in the description below. I have with me today Mikomi. She is a well-rounded gamer. She does cosplay. She has run her own team, her own Overwatch team. Done very well doing that. Done extremely well doing that. Thank you very much. And she now is the founder and CEO of her own org, Hope Esports. Mikomi, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
And it's always a pleasure whenever you ask me to do a podcast with you, Bill. I always love our talks. They're great.
Thank you very much. So since the last time we actually had a really deep conversation, you're still married, of course. Your son is now not a toddler. He's now older, and I'm sure there are great stories there. I do remember like a tweet about something about pants, right? How some days are good days if we wear pants or something like that, or what?
Yep. It's a good day if my son puts pants on.
And I can confirm that as a parent, sometimes if you just get pants on them, that's a good day because everything else is just, fine after that. But what I really want to get into is where you are in your gaming career, because the last time that I was really paying attention, kind of honed in on what you're doing, you had your own Overwatch team. You put in some serious work to participate in a tournament, and then you just stopped, right?
Yeah, basically. So I retired from Pride Start Gaming at the beginning of 2019 as an Overwatch player. Mm-hmm. I ended up getting diagnosed later that year with severe anemia as well as adult onset diabetes. I thought I was just getting old and my reaction times were slowing down. It turns out I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my brain. Go figure.
Okay.
And it made critical thinking in the fast-paced gaming world very difficult, and it also screwed with my aim and my reaction times. So pretty common mistake, apparently, thinking you're getting old, but apparently you're just chronically ill.
Okay, so I just want to stop right there. So you're saying that if I do a bunch of deep breathing exercises before I start to play a game, that I'll shoot better? Is that what you're saying to me?
No, actually.
Okay.
So I didn't really know that anemia was a big deal because it's a pretty common illness, especially within women who have had children and stuff. It's common for women to develop it after having their first child. What it is your blood doesn't have enough iron in it, and what iron does in your blood is it transports the oxygen that your blood stores, like your red blood cells. So if you don't have enough iron in your blood, then you're not getting enough oxygen in your blood. So you'll frequently have things like severe migraines, fainting. In very serious cases, it can cause immune deficiencies.
Wow.
You can have loss of cognitive functions like critical thinking. It can cause mood swings. It can cause a whole host of problems. And I had a very severe case when I got my blood work done the first time. I was getting half of the amount of oxygen in my blood that a normal human has. My doctor was, in fact, shocked that I was able to play at a professional level while being as hindered as I was mentally. Okay. Yeah. So, all things considered, I did pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So you had some treatment for anemia. I can tell you that having dealt with a form of diabetes myself, I've dealt with a type 2 quite a bit. I do take some supplements to combat that. I do have to exercise more. Of course, with the COVID lockdown, that's often hard. So
been magical trying to exercise with gyms being shut down, and with it being winter now especially, I can't even go running anymore without slipping on ice.
And then combine that with the fact that you have a 7-year-old boy who I'm sure is the love of your life, and he's a strong, independent young man. You just wish he wouldn't do it every single night before bed, right?
Basically, yeah. And his new favorite thing to do is run into my office whenever he hears me playing Valorant during the day. And he wants to go into the training, like the practice range, and he wants to practice being a jet opper. So he's already going to be a distinguished gentleman when he grows up, I can tell.
I bet he is. I bet he is. So let's kind of use that right there as a segue, because you spent a lot of time in Overwatch and you left for various reasons. You can call it, personal issues, health. People have I will say from my experience, next to when you talk about communities that are full of toxic people, I would say next to Call of Duty, that Overwatch is pretty darn close. I've run into some fun people there. So you left Overwatch and you solved your health problems, and then you decided to start your own org, and that's sort of an interesting concept to me. Now, this might sound horrible, but it is my perception that there are not a lot of female founders and CEOs of esports orgs. Now, we can sit here all day and debate reasons behind that. I mean, we could point out how gaming is a boys' club, always has been for a very long time. We can point out, okay, maybe, and please tell me if I'm wrong on this, maybe women deal with different issues that guys don't. Like you said, you had a kid, you have anemia because you had a kid and you had health problems. I mean, there's a lot going on there, right?
So I think that there are a lot of different reasons why there aren't more women in CEO positions within esports. One, there aren't actually that many CEO positions available within esports. A lot of the bigger orgs have been around for a long time. And a lot of the times, the people that founded the org still work for them.
Right.
Like, that's just kind of what it comes down to. Also, like, women get bullied a lot more in esports than men do. Like, women get bullied and doxxed and all this other stuff simply for existing.
Okay.
Like, I'm actually not that toxic. Like, I get comms banned, but I normally get comms banned for telling racists to shut up or telling misogynists to shut up. I don't know. I'm never actually gotten comms banned for just being a toxic individual. Like, there's always been like a root cause of it. But like, I'll be a pretty like positive mental attitude person, but I'll still have people on the ladder in any ranked game that I've played that involves a team across different genres of esports. They'll still be like, oh, I always lose whenever I have an e-girl on my team. And I'm like, fascinating that you think I'm an e-girl since my Smurf is higher than your main, but pop off, sir.
That was good. That was a good one. I like that one. That's good.
It's a thing. Like, I get it in Valorant now too. Like, my Smurf is higher than a lot of people's mains, which is kind of funny. Also kind of sad. I'm not even good at Valorant. But it happens in every game. And like, just that whole like like women get blamed for everything in video games,
Mhm.
whether it's a team-based game or not, you know.
Right.
And because of that, like a lot of women, you know, they quit playing before they get good enough where they could eventually get into esports, like as a player. Also, like, you know, at least in my generation, it was really frowned upon for women to play video games. It was barely socially acceptable for guys to be gamers, let alone a female.
Right.
Like growing up, I was fortunate that my family bought me video games. It was
Mhm.
kind of a means to an end, though. I ended up having really bad car sickness as a kid,
Okay.
and video games, specifically like my Game Boy, was the only thing that kept me from puking in the car. So obviously, my parents were like, "Hey, let's not ruin our upholstery. Let's buy her Zelda." Here we are now. But and I mean, I did sports and everything all through college, even. So like I still did the traditional like normie things and everything.
Right.
You know, like I was a cheerleader, I did figure skating, I
Right.
did volleyball and soccer and all that other stuff. And I played video games whenever I wasn't doing homework or at practice and stuff. So I was able to get away with it. But a lot of other women, like their parents didn't support that, whether it was for religious reasons, whether it was for like socioeconomic reasons,
Right.
you name it, or just like plain gender roles.
Right.
So a lot of women didn't have the opportunity to grow up playing video games, and so they don't have that natural like mechanical skill that
Right.
is developed when you're younger playing video games.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So I guess I've always wondered why people start their own ventures. They decide they're going to do their own thing versus working for someone else. What was the situation? What was the event in your life where you're like, you know what? I'm going to come back, and I'm not just going to come back and run a team. I'm going to run my own org. Was it one thing that happened? Was it a series of events? Was it your husband saying, "Dear, you're around the house too much. I'd like you to find something to do"?
Okay, let's be perfectly honest. It is never my husband saying that I need more work to do.
Oh, okay. That is good to know.
That is normally the last thing on his mind.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
He's normally the one that's like, "Oh, I can do dishes tonight. You seem kind of busy." And I'm like, "Great, I love you." So as far as when it comes to starting an org, I'd say it was a series of very similar unfortunate events happening to my friends. So COVID hit, the other company I was working with went under, which was fine, part of life. So I was without a job, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in esports, because I actually had a decision to make whether I wanted to continue working in esports or if I wanted to go back to being a costume designer again. So I was thinking about that. Valorant came out. It was still in closed beta at the time. I got an access code, and I really liked the game, and I ended up getting involved in the esports scene kind of early on.
Okay.
Because I realized that in all of the different work that I've done within esports, my favorite was still, even when I was a player for Pride Stark, like I just really loved the environment that I worked in. It was positive. I felt supported and genuinely valued as not just like a talented individual, but also as like a human.
Okay.
For those of you that have worked in esports, you know exactly what I mean by that statement. For those of you that haven't, be glad you don't know what I mean by that statement. So I wanted to get back to working with orgs rather than like the corporate side or content creation side.
Right.
And I ended up I had a few friends that made multiple different teams. A few of them made it to the tier 2 scene, actually. A few of them stayed in tier 3. I kept hearing horrible stories from my friends where they were getting like picked up by an org, or an org was looking at hiring them. The org was taking tournament earnings, but not paying the players proper stipends, or they weren't even getting them sponsorships. They weren't really offering anything other than the team basically doing free marketing for the org, or the org paying like entry fees or something like that.
Right.
I'm like, wow, I was like a tier 3 Overwatch player, and I made more than some of these teams made like combined. Like, this is backwards.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow.
And I didn't even like, I made like a part-time salary and everything, but
Right.
I still made enough to put my kid in a private school, so yay. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm one person, and like, yeah, I won a lot of tournaments, but like, I mean, some of these people are on like top 10 teams or like top
Right.
30 teams, and they're making like a fraction of what I made. Like, this is backwards.
Wow.
And
wow.
then like players just getting dropped, and there like people not knowing how to manage teams and things like that. Like, the number of, I've seen so many people hop teams, and I'm like, how do they expect to be successful? Like, you're swapping your teammates out every VCS. Like, you're not going to win a tournament if you're playing with a new group of people every week. You're basically just playing glorified pugs at that point. Like,
Right.
how are you going to get better? And so I just saw enough of my friends get screwed over in a short amount of time where I'm like, I should use my clout for something other than just sitting in my room and raging while smurfing in Overwatch. And so I decided to make an org. I was fortunate enough, I had a guy reach out to be an investor, ended up somehow becoming my CFO, which is great because I suck with numbers and budgeting, and he will definitely agree with me on that. And I talked Wei into being a co-founder with me. So I have basically like my old mentor from esports doing a new org with me, and it's really great. And we're putting our players first. I learned from my own experiences of like putting my own health and wellness to the side to focus on winning. Like, if I didn't do that, I'd probably still be a pro player right now.
Right.
And so I have a big focus of health and wellness for my org. I have a health and wellness expert on staff. That's not me. It's great. And we're just trying to be the change in the industry that a lot of us as veterans have seen that it needed, but we're actually taking the initiative to be the ones to incite the change.
Okay, so it's really interesting that you talk about all the bad stories that pop up, team hopping, orgs signing squads for one event and then taking their prize money. So there's this perception out there that esports is kind of this black hole that you just throw money into, and one out of every 75 teams actually, or one of 75 groups actually becomes viable and becomes something that can feed itself and doesn't always need to find a new investor or always need to find a new sponsor. And so I guess, how do you plan to I think fix that, make that different? Because I've watched so many orgs come and go. So many people talk big and underdeliver, and I mean, I can attribute that to both sides of the coin. You have people who might have money who think that starting an esports org is as simple as finding a team, when in actuality it's finding a team and then finding a staff to do all the behind the scenes work, and then it's the marketing, and then you have to, I mean, there's a laundry list of things that you have to run, and they have no concept of what they get into, and then they end up taking advantage of younger people looking for an opportunity, quote unquote, and they just make bad decisions. But then you have the other side of that. You have the players. You have 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. Sometimes they're 19. They decide, I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a pro Valorant player. I'm going to be a pro Overwatch player, a pro Call of Duty player. And they have no concept of what they're actually getting into. And when they decide, I'm going to wake up at 6 in the morning and play COD from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then I'm going to go to bed and get up and do that day after day after day. Like, okay, wait a minute. There's a lot more to life than just sitting in front of a television screen. So I mean, I'm sure you've thought about this. I know Wei, and when we say Wei, we mean Wei Stark. He's a friend to both of us. How do you guys plan to be profitable? How do you plan to handle these sorts of things?
Well, one of the big reasons why I think you see a lot of orgs come and go, a lot of people, just in business in general, whenever it comes to them branching out from their industry that they have experience in,
Right.
when they branch out into a new industry, they try to overlap the skill sets, the business models, things like that. Like, yes, there's a certain level of overlap between traditional business and esports, but there's also quite a bit that doesn't overlap. Esports is a very new industry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people liken it to pro sports. I mean, there are some similarities. There's also quite a bit of differences. Like, for instance, with COVID, I actually had a meeting earlier today with somebody from the collegiate esports sector, and they kept their practices up for their esports teams, but their NCAA teams for, their regular sports, like, they weren't able to have practice.
Right.
But I know I have former teammates who are now playing in the collegiate esports sector, like for different colleges and stuff. And their colleges have canceled their practices because they thought that they needed to do the same thing for esports that they did for regular sports. And I'm like, dude, gamers don't even like talking to each other IRL. Like,
they don't.
You don't need to worry about them coughing on each other and giving them COVID. Like, we are hermits and recluses by nature. Like, you don't need to worry about that. We socially distance better than anybody else. But like, they're still keeping them from practices, even though they could do so from the safety of their own like apartments or dorm rooms and stuff, if they were like residential students.
Right. Exactly.
So there are differences and stuff. And I think one of the big things that I've noticed working with several different ventures over the years at esports is that a lot of people, they are smart, but they're not wise. I've noticed.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I know that I will never work in finance. So I knew that the first person that I had to get to help me found my company would have to be somebody who was very, very gifted in that area to make up for my lack of, like, even basic knowledge, right?
Okay.
A lot of people do think that they can throw money at esports and it will work, but like, I mean, yeah, if you threw money at somebody like Wei, he could make anything work in esports because he's been in esports for like 15 years.
Right.
He has more experience than most people who are currently working in the industry because he's one of the guys that helped create it, right?
Right.
But like, a lot of people just throw money at the wrong people, if that makes sense.
Right.
As far as the players are concerned, because the industry is still so new, there's not really a lot of knowledge out there for people who want to get into the industry. The longer I've been in this industry, the more I realized I was so blessed that Wei picked me up and not some other org. Like, the amount of horror stories I've heard, it's honestly disgusting. And I was very fortunate to have the experience that I did as a pro player, let alone a female pro player.
Right.
I was so fortunate. Like, yeah, I worked really hard, but I had a very good org backing me. Not many women have that opportunity. Not many even male gamers have that opportunity. And I think that because there's a lack of knowledge, like, that's honestly one of the big hindrances for a lot of new players. Like, a lot of new players don't know what they need to look for in contracts. Like, a contract can look like super pretty, it could have a really nice layout, it could sound nice, but it could be one of the most malicious things written on paper, and a lot of players wouldn't even know that.
Right.
A lot of players, they do think that they just need to grind in front of like their computer screen or their TV all day. Like, they think that they need to log like 12 hours a day playing a game, but like, they don't have a purpose. Like, you need to, once you get to a certain level, it's quality over quantity.
Right. Yeah.
When it comes to how you spend your time. like I had to learn that a lot quicker than I think a lot of gamers have to learn, because like I got my start as a pro much later in life than a lot of people do. A lot of people start their pro career when they're like teenagers or when they're in college and stuff. I started when I was 26.
So so
I was already married with a kid. I had adult responsibilities. I had to manage my time there.
Right. So right there, I think that's a great spot to bring up. Hey, how do you manage the fact that you have a husband, you have a kid, and you have to also sleep once in a while? I mean, not like every day, but you still have to sleep once in a while, right? So I mean, so at some point, you have to have the self-discipline of, okay, here's the 4 hours that I have to play. I'm gonna block out this 4 hours, and then so everything before that, I got to make sure my kid is what is taken care of. Maybe feed him. Maybe it's a nap. Maybe it's whatever. Then
make sure he's not bleeding.
Make sure he's not bleeding. Make sure he has pants on. And then then you do have a husband. I mean, I would assume that you sort of like him. I mean, you're
usually spending time with him, like once every month, once or twice.
I'm sure you have to carve out 15 minutes on a Friday to I don't know, say something to him, right?
Yeah, I have to acknowledge his existence. I try to acknowledge his existence at least like once a day.
Okay, good.
Preferably for multiple hours at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess right there's a really good spot to really go into. How do you schedule that? Because now it isn't just you're going to play for 4 hours. You're now running the place. You're responsible for everything. You have to set those standards in place, plus have a family, plus sleep, and maybe once in a while have some food too, right?
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
Right.
It's definitely a learning curve. I had a bit of management experience prior to randomly becoming CEO / co-founder of an org. I've been a director of marketing for a few different companies. I was the team captain for my Overwatch team for 2 years, so I have had experience being in management in esports. So my husband has picked up a lot of the slack around the house. Like, how they say marriage is supposed to be 50-50. Currently, it's about 70-30. Not going to lie.
Okay.
He's doing a lot of work, and I appreciate him. And he's the one that even volunteered himself. Like, I didn't ask him to start doing more.
Mm-hmm.
It was he realized how much time this was taking, and he didn't want to risk me getting sick.
Right.
So he decided to take up more responsibility around the house, like with our son, things like that. Like right now, I'm fairly certain he's going to go grab food, because I am obviously not cooking tonight since it is 5:30, and
yes,
I am on a podcast with you, and then I have to stream at 8. I might have another meeting afterwards. We don't know yet. I have to check my email again.
Okay.
And let's see. I'm also very fortunate in that the 2 other co-founders I have, all the 3 of us, we work really well with each other.
Okay.
I don't try to handle things that I'm not qualified for, and vice versa. So for instance, I'm great at marketing. My CFO, not so much. So like the CFO handles like our finances. He handles certain tech things, because he also for his day job, he works in the tech field.
Mm-hmm.
So he handles tech things, whereas I'm like a keyboard monkey. Like, I'm not really techie, even though I'm a gamer.
Right.
And Wei handles the marketing that I can't do myself. He also handles like sponsorship acquisitions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have more time to do other responsibilities I have. One of the things that we as a group decided was important right now at this stage of our company growth was leading by example. So I'm over here, leading this healthy lifestyle that I literally need to use and live, so I don't have to go on medication that will kill me quicker, essentially.
Got it.
So, I mean, I have to be a health nut, whether I want to be or not. Like, I wish I could eat cake every day, but I can't. I have to
Right.
eat kale instead, and like broccoli and other things. I have to work out because I don't want to go on medication that makes my kidneys fail sooner. So I have to do all these things. I have to be a mom.
Right.
I mean, I enjoy being a mom, but I have to be a mom, even though I enjoy it. And now one of the things that I'm doing is I'm getting a female Valorant team around, because there are some female Valorant teams, and I noticed that like I'm one of the few females in esports that, one, has played professionally, but two, successfully played professionally. And even though I am past my prime as a player, I still want to impart that knowledge over to other women. Right. So future generations, like those that come after me, know how to, set up practices, set up scrims, structure their time, things like that. And so that's one of the things I'm working on right now that only I can work on. The other two guys that are founders with me, like, they can't do it. They're not a female, they can't get into like female only tournaments and female only like Discord servers and stuff. It has to be me. So we decided that was something that would be my main thing that I'm working on for the org, is growing up like our like women in esports. So yeah. So
right there, I want to specifically highlight what's said about women in esports, because from my end, it looks like there's a lot of effort going into this. There's a lot of effort, time spent, money. A lot of words are being thrown out about women in esports. I believe it was recently Cloud9 signed an all-female squad too. So from somebody who isn't in your position, you see things differently than I do. You have a different experience set than me. Do you see things actually changing?
They've changed at the upper level. It's definitely changed at the upper level. Developers are starting to realize that, hey, all of these women complaining, they're not just complaining, like, this is actually a problem.
Okay.
And they're doing what they can to fix it. Tournaments are starting to realize it. Pro players are realizing it as well. It's just a matter of trickle-down effect. Like, everybody that I just mentioned, that's the top 1% of people involved in this industry. That's not the millions of people who watch these tournaments or who play the games, It's going to be a matter of time for it to start taking effect at the macro level. Like, at the micro level, it's happening.
Okay.
It's just the general population's not going to see a change for a while, I would assume. Look at like women's rights or LGBTQ rights over the past few years. Like, I think gay marriage has been legal for like a decade at this point, right? But like, you still have massive discrimination against LGBTQ members. You still have discrimination against minorities and people of color. You still have discrimination against women, even though all of this has been, it's illegal to discriminate against people, like in the workplace and stuff, but it still happens.
Right.
And so it's going to take a while for change to happen, but change has started at the top. It's just going to be a while before everybody is aware of it. But I think it's promising, because normally the people at the top are the people those are the hardest people to convince that change needs to happen. And when the people with the power decide that change needs to happen, then it will. It just, like I said, it takes time.
Good to hear. Because those conversations happen in rooms that I'm not in. I don't sit in those rooms and have those kinds of conversations. I write articles, I do podcasts, I talk about this stuff, with everybody else. But I never sat in a room with a bunch of org owners and tournament people where we're actually talk about this stuff. So that is awesome to hear. So you got your org, you got your family, things are working well. You're eating kale.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna have to get there myself. I'm gonna be turning 49 here in about 2 months. Like, probably gonna have to start eating kale a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good in soups. It doesn't have the gross texture. Put it in soups.
I have heard that the way you eat raw kale is you put salt on it and then you rub the salt into the kale. Is that right?
I don't eat raw kale. I'm not that dedicated.
Okay.
I eat kale in things.
In
So
things,
I will
okay.
put kale, like I'll make kale chips.
Oh.
Or I don't buy kale chips. Whenever
Okay.
I've tried like a pre-made kale chip, it's tasted like what most people assume kale tastes like.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is good to know.
It's better if you just make them yourself.
Make it yourself. Okay.
And then like I put kale in soups and stuff. Like you could substitute kale in for things. Like you could substitute it in like salads and stuff.
Okay.
But soups, I like it because it makes it all wilty, and it does because I don't like the texture of like raw kale personally.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'd rather eat. I'd rather have broccoli. A little bit of butter, a little bit of salt. Go to town kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like broccoli.
That's the good stuff.
Broccoli, yeah, little bit of butter, a little bit of salt, and then steam the crap out of it. Oh, dude, that's good stuff.
Mhm.
Anyway, so for your org, the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, where do you see yourself going, doing, being? I mean, obviously, we need to get beyond COVID so we can go back to in-person events. I think that
Oh yeah.
that has to happen. That for growth of anything, you have to have an in-person event. You can only do so much online. I will say that one of my favorite experiences, one that got me hooked on gaming, was when I went to Evo 2017 down in Vegas, and I got to walk through the masses of like vendor tables and the stages with the people playing Smash and Street Fighter and Injustice and all these different games, and watching all this happen live. It's something that you cannot duplicate online. You have to be there. You have to be in the middle of it. But as far as your org, next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, where do you see yourself?
Let's just say that people aren't going to be ready for when live events start up because everybody seems to forget that Way and I's marketing specialty is live events.
Right.
So, like, I'm just going to throw out there, as soon as live events start back up, you'll know.
Good.
What's going on with our org. We have a lot of things that are going to be happening over the course of the next 6 months that I can't talk about because of NDAs.
Okay.
And a lot of things that happen in the future are contingent upon those things that happen in the next 6 months that I can't talk about because of NDAs. However, general plan is we're looking to be fully funded by the end of this year, potentially sooner.
Nice.
We already have some top-notch talent assigned to our org, so we would like to add more over the course of the next few months and stuff. One of the big things that we want to do in regards to sponsorships, so you know how there are the stereotypical sponsorships that orgs get, like G Fuel and other gamer sponsorships and stuff. Like for every unhealthy product or food and drink thing that sponsors orgs, we want to have a healthy alternative. So say for instance, instead of an energy drink, maybe coffee, or having a water company or a protein powder, or a protein smoothie company or something like that.
So I will say that if you get a green tea sponsorship, I will buy green tea through you. I love unsweetened. I love unsweetened green tea. I just love
me too.
I just love the taste, and I love it's one of those drinks that I often eat food that I'm like, I shouldn't be eating this, but I am going to eat it anyway. But then there are some foods I can eat a bunch of this and not feel bad, and I can drink a bunch of green tea and not feel bad about it. And I will say this, if you get a green tea sponsorship through somebody, anybody, don't really care, I will buy it through you because I love green tea, and I really hope you get one.
I really hope we do too, because I love my green tea. I love jasmine tea and everything too. So I drink a lot of tea. I have a whole cupboard in my kitchen, not just a shelf, but like 4 shelves.
Wow.
Filled up of like boxed teas and stuff. So I really like it as well. Wow. It's one of the things that I have been relying on since becoming diabetic, because I can't really, drink soda. I mean, most people shouldn't drink soda anyways, because it has 2 to 3 times your daily amount of sugar that you're supposed to have in a full day, just in like 1 can. And then carbonated drinks, like even though it's like a diet drink or something, like it's still unhealthy for you, which sucks, because I love ginger ale, but it's not always the healthiest thing. So for part of my diabetes management, I had to lose weight because the diabetes actually made me gain weight. Because your body doesn't process sugar properly when you have diabetes, and so like you'll gain a lot of weight from it. And I had to cut out a lot in order to lose the weight that I needed to in order to not go on medication.
Got it. Got it.
So yeah, tea has been a staple in my household, and my son loves it, and he doesn't even need sugar in it. So
whoa! Oh my! So hey, we get him.
Big flex.
Get him. Yeah, big flex. That right there, folks, is a strong a mom flex. Well done, mom. Mm-hmm. Well done, mom. Okay, so you in your esports career have really run the gambit of player to team captain to marketing to working in various corporate situations, working in various esports orgs. You now run your own org. You've decided that you're going to make that happen on top of being a mom and having a marriage and having a son. I'm sure that he's a ball of fire. I once heard young boys. Somebody described young boys to me once as a noise with the dirt on it, and I think that's pretty accurate most times, because I was thinking about man, when I was a kid, I'm surprised my parents didn't like kill me, because I was like loud and obnoxious, if anybody can believe that, because I'm just so quiet and reserved.
Like my son. It's everybody's son, honestly. Like under the age of 10.
He just runs around like he runs around like his hair's on fire, and then he runs up to you and gives you a hug, goes, "Love you, mom." You're like, okay, that's cheating, young man.
That just happened before I locked myself in here to take the call with you, actually. Like, verbatim, that's what just happened.
He runs around the house like his hair's on fire, smashing things. You're like, would you calm down? Love you, mom. Oh man. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you have this wealth of experience. You've done a lot of things. What advice, what 2 or 3 things can you give, pieces of advice to potential females, to women out there who are like, I want to do this. I can run my own org. I'm smart enough. I have good connections. I can make this happen. But they may not be able to take that step at this exact moment in time.
Invest in yourself. My entire adult life has been investing in myself professionally. Mm-hmm. My husband has facilitated a lot of it. A lot of people aren't fortunate to be in a situation where their spouse supports their entrepreneurial desires and stuff like that.
Right.
So just like surround yourself with people that uplift you and support you, like not like toxic positivity, because like everything you come up with isn't going to be right. Like my husband and I do argue contrary to popular belief, and we have a wonderful marriage. Like we have differing opinions, and it's good to surround yourself with people who have differing opinions as you, but who also uplift you and share concerns through like lens of concern and support rather than like jealousy
Okay.
and whatnot. So be careful who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
If you want to be a player, like, I'm sorry to say it, but with the current state that like the industry's in right now, you got to deal with a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to become a pro player, like, you're going to get talked down to, you're going to have people dox you, you're going to have people try to discredit every single accomplishment that you make.
Right.
Even though I solo queued to Diamond in Valorant on stream multiple times,
Right.
I still have people ask me, who boosted you? And I'm like, myself. Thank you for asking.
Right.
Like, it's just, that's the life of being a female right now. You're not going to get special treatment. I had to win multiple tournaments in order to be taken seriously.
Right.
And even then, I still had a lot of people who didn't take me seriously. You just need to have a thick skin. It sucks. It's just kind of what it takes in order to be a player. In order to be in management, I think even more so, you need to earn the respect of those around you. I think one of the reasons why I've been able to have the success outside of being a player that I've had is because I earned respect along the way.
Okay.
Not everybody is good enough to be a pro player. Like, pro players are the top 1% of the top 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, realistically speaking, like, it's very unlikely for a lot of people, even men, to be pro gamers.
Right.
And stuff. So, like, looking to, like, if you realize, like, oh, hey, I've been hard stuck Diamond, maybe I'm never going to go pro in this game. Like, that's a valid, I guess, conclusion for people to come to. It doesn't happen overnight, but eventually you need to really sit back and think, like, wow, am I actually good enough to even qualify for these tournaments, let alone win enough of them for an org to want to pay me money to play this game?
Right.
So finding other areas that you could work in the industry. A lot of people just think you get into esports by being a pro player, but there are so many supporting roles, like marketing, which is my specialty, like finance, business management, team management, actually health and wellness. A lot of orgs are starting to hire like sports medicine people or athletic trainers to help prevent musculoskeletal injuries within their pro players.
Right.
Branding, broadcasting, and journalism.
Right.
Like, there are all of these different avenues that one could take in order to work in this industry. But a lot of people just think all it is playing video games, and that's not it at all.
Oh, man. So, Mikomi, you are an awesome individual. Thank you very, very much for making time for me today. So if people want to get into contact with you, how do they do that?
I stream every Tuesday and Thursday on Twitch. You can catch me at twitch.tv/Mikomi-chan. You can catch my org on every social media platform under Hope Esports GG. We have a Discord server. We have multiple community nights every week. I have my own private Discord server. It's a little bit more degenerate, so I wouldn't go in there unless you want to see some memes.
Right.
And me complaining about games, basically.
Right. So, we'll just kind of leave that there, not kind of do too much with that. Let people's
put the link to the org Discord, not mine.
Right. We'll put
They need to dig to find that one.
We'll put a link to the social media for the org and then the Discord and everything in the description below.
Yes.
If you want Mikomi's special server, let's call it special Discord server, you'll have to ask for that personally. She probably won't give it to you the first time you ask. But Mikomi, thank you very much for making time for me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bill.
You're welcome. Welcome back anytime. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please do like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. More podcasts coming. I got some good guests coming, and I hope you will tune in to see them. I will see you very soon.
Thank you for tuning in today. You can find links to everyone on the show in the description below. Check out BillTheConquerer on Twitch and Twitter to stay up to date on his thoughts and ideas about gaming culture.